Welcome to the NICU Dad Podcast, a podcast for NICU dads by NICU dads. I'm Alex Zavala, a father to two preemie girls, Mia, who was born at 30 weeks, and Emerson, who was born at 27 weeks. Combined, my wife Jen and I both spent over 100 days in the NICU. After my last NICU experience, I started the NICU Dad. I did this to try and fill the gap of information and support that was lacking for NICU dads. Be sure and check out thenicudad.com, and hopefully you will find it a useful resource. In this podcast, we will cover many topics that NICU parents face, but from the NICU dad's perspective. Topics such as premature birth, bereavement, PTSD, and many others. These dads who you'll hear share their stories in hope of letting other NICU dads know they are not alone. In today's episode, we'll be talking with Erik Velez. Erik and his wife Monica were pregnant with twin boys when they suddenly had to have an emergency delivery after doctors could only find one heartbeat. Tragically, they would lose one of the boys and still had to endure a NICU stay with the surviving twin. This is their story. Today our guest is Erik Velez, and Erik is a fellow NICU dad who's going to share his experience with us. And Erik, thanks for coming here today, man.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
And sharing your story with us. I think it's one that's very, very important.
Yeah, well, thank you again for having me. Our story starts on basically Father's Day of 2015. That was the day that we found out that we were actually pregnant. My wife took a pregnancy test, and, we saw those double lines, and that's where this story begins. We couldn't get into the doctor for about another month or so after. So we still, had it, we're, secretly surprised, and we took a trip that we had planned still, and we're just still, playing it cautious. So fast forward to that doctor's appointment with my wife Monica's OBGYN, actually found out that we were expecting twins. And so that was even more of a surprise, because actually on our second date, before getting married and all that, our second date, I jokingly asked my wife, my then girlfriend, now wife, hey, I've always wanted twins, and can you make that happen? And it was always a joke, and so now it was actually reality that, hey, we did make this happen, We're going to be having some twins. We just didn't know, gender yet. It's still pretty early on. And so, again, fast forward probably another month or so, we found out at least one gender with the genetic testing, and then another month or two later, we finally found out that both kids were going to be boys. And so I was super ecstatic. We were, tracking and trending well. Doctor's appointments, specialist appointments, going to all those and seeing those boys grow and getting, our families involved and having the gender reveals for both grandmas to find out. So everything was going great, nothing major, no major issues until about 33 weeks and about 5 days in. So now we fast forward to January 4th of 2016. We a piece of furniture that we ordered for Christmas finally came in. It was delayed. So anyway, it finally came in, and so Monica and I went to go pick it up, and the furniture place helped me load it onto my dad's truck, and so on and so forth. I brought it back home. I had one of my neighbors help me unload it for the it's a kitchen buffet. And so anyway, when I went to go return my dad's truck back, I got a text from my wife and just saying that she was experiencing some pain, that she needs to have me come home sooner than later. And so that set off my internal alarms, and so I'm rushing back home to see what's going on, and she's just bending over in pain. And so I didn't know what to do. We were still pretty early on, again, 33 weeks, 5 days, and so we weren't scheduled for another month plus to deliver these boys. And so she just wanted to take a bath and maybe calm her down a little bit. And so I said, yeah. So I helped her in the tub, and she kind of bathed, kind of just sat in some warm water. And that pain got worse. And so I told her, I was like, let me just call the on-call doctor, and the on-call doctor said, you know what, go ahead and come on in. I'll go ahead and meet you there, and we'll just take a look and see what's going on. She didn't sound alarmed by any means, but we were still, internally alarmed, just because Monica technically was measuring at like 41 plus weeks. We went ahead and went on in, and by then, Monica was in excruciating pain. It was hard for her to even get into the car. The ride to the hospital, we went down to Seton, Maine, where we were already registered in. We were planned, forms filled out. Everything was ready to go. We were attending classes, the whole nine. But anyway, now this was, emergency style, where we didn't even have bags packed because we were still, again, 5, 6, 7 weeks out before we were even going to deliver. And so we didn't know what was going on, other than Monica was in a ton of pain. And so they rushed her up to the second floor. By then I went to go park the car. By the time I went in, they already had her, in a room, several nurses. It was just chaos. And so I remember having 2 of those monitors. They're strapping to her belly to, find those heartbeats. And I remember those heartbeats were in sync, and which I thought was kind of cool. But in actuality, it was only one heartbeat that they found. The other heartbeat they just couldn't find. And I was even trying to tell the nurse, well, I remember, one of our sons, he typically lays over here on this side of Monica's stomach, and can you try to move the monitor this way? And so she tried, and nothing, and she kept trying, nothing. So we basically ordered an ultrasound just to verify what's going on. And so the on-call doctor was still not there, but the hospitalist that was there got the ultrasound, and she did a quick ultrasound, and she said, no, I'm sorry, there's only one heartbeat. The other heartbeats, your other son has passed. And at that point, it was pure denial. It's like, no way. We're waiting for, our on-call doctor. Yeah. She surely, she can find it. At that point, Monica was in tears, and I'm in denial, frustrated. And so, sure enough, the on-call doctor shows up, confirms that there's no heartbeat for our son. And so, at that point, where do we go from here? So that's where decisions need to be made, as far as we're still pretty, those boys, or our surviving son and now is still pretty young. Do we admit Monica and let her stay in the hospital for time for our son to mature a little bit more, or do they go ahead and deliver?
Oh, man.
Well, during that time, they're talking to the specialists on call as well, and they're leaning on admitting her. But while all this is happening, our surviving son's heartbeat starts dropping. And so it got to the point where it's like, you know what, this is going to be an emergency, basically urgent C-section. We're taking both boys out now. And so we're like, holy crap, what? We went from pregnancy, perfect pregnancy, going to all these first-time parent classes, preparing. The room was already, cribs were up, walls painted, the whole nine, to now we're in an emergency situation where we lost a son. Our other son may not survive. Monica's, may not survive. We don't know what's going on. And so they hurry her over to, surgery, and they basically told me, you need to gown up real quick and get inside. And so I remember sitting and waiting for them to come get me, like every other dad, right?
Yeah.
But instead of sitting there with joy, waiting to see both of my sons, I'm at a crossroads. Like, should I be grieving and crying and and also happy, or should I feel bad that I'm also happy too? Like, and so that's something that I've, even now, fast forward 3.5 years later, like, what I deal with every day, seeing my son now, am I happy and proud of him and all these, achievements that he's, milestones? Of course. So anyway, just sitting there in that chair is kind of a defining moment for me.
Yeah.
Where, what am I supposed to do? So anyway, fast forward to the, going into that surgery room. I see Monica already they already gave her, they didn't put her under, but they, numbed her up and
Right.
delivered first baby boy, and that was Elias, our surviving son, born at basically 33.6, because now it was 1 a.m, weighing 4 pounds 12 ounces, and then delivered, and he wasn't in great shape at all. If anybody knows APGAR scores, he was rated a 1 at first. And so he wasn't going to survive. I mean, his heartbeat was dropping. He wasn't really responsive, and they took him right away. Like, we couldn't even hold him. They wanted to monitor him and hook him up to some oxygen and all kinds of stuff. And so then here comes our other son, Andres, that didn't make it. Also obviously at 33.6, but weighing 4 pounds 2 ounces. And I remember seeing him that little weigh scale, seeing him just lifeless, and again, kind of, what do you do? What do you? I got a son that's maybe gonna make it, maybe not, and then I have a lifeless son, sitting there on the on that weigh scale. It was just a moment that I'll never forget. So a few minutes passed by, and Elias is actually doing better now, and they give him an APGAR score of 7. So it's not a 10, but 7 at least is okay. They were able to allow us to hold both of our sons together for the first and last time, basically, because they needed to rush Elias up to the NICU. And that's why I'm here today. So we got to hold them. We got to, take pictures as a family. But they had to grab Elias back and take him up to the NICU so that they could care for him a little bit more, because he was still in critical condition. So I stayed back with Monica to make sure she was okay, and they assured me that Elias was going to be, well taken care of in the NICU. And so I know some parents have said, always follow the child no matter what. But I was like, I have my wife that's shivering on the surgery bed, or whatever you want to call it, and a son that has passed, and I'm holding on to him, and just, again, decision time. Like, what do I do? What am I supposed to do? And so we spent some time, made sure Monica was in good shape, and so then at that point, I asked the nurse to, take me up to the NICU, because I didn't know. I knew my nephew was a NICU baby, but I wasn't here to experience that. I was in Florida chasing my career, and so I didn't see that birth. I saw my niece. I was able to experience that, and she was fine. It's just that NICU you always hear is kind of like a 4-letter bad word. Sometimes people kind of get stressed out about it, or raises the hair on your back. Just kind of ooh, what are you expecting? When you go in there. And so I had the nurse walk me up there to go see Elias, and they gave me the lowdown of, hey, it's flu season, and make sure you're washing your hands. And so they showed me, all those steps, and they lead me over to his area, and he was in the Bay 6 area of Seton, Maine, upstairs on that 9th floor, 8th floor, or something like that. 8th floor. And so I go over there and I see him, and he's face down with tubes, basically a CPAP machine for babies, wires everywhere. He's alive, and I see on the monitor that he's alive, but he's in bad shape. And so, the nurse, talks to me for a minute. I don't remember what she says, because at that point I'm just focused on my son. And I reached down to him, and I put my pinky finger basically on one of his hands. I can't remember which one, and he immediately grabs it. And man, that was the moment that I knew. I was like, that's my son. No matter what, it's gonna happen from now until the day I die. That's my son. And so just for that brief moment, I had that bit of joy. Throughout that time, he was in the NICU for about 17 days. there were some milestones and some setbacks and back and forth, but ultimately, we were there. Monica was able to be there every day for them. Side note, Ronald McDonald was able to put us up because after so many days, they basically kick you out of the hospital. Yeah. Ronald McDonald came through and learned about our story and put us up in one of those family rooms on the 8th floor as well. So it was nice and convenient that, midnight runs to the NICU to go, whether I wanted to go check on him, go hold him, feed him, or at least at minimum drop off some milk to help support him. It was nice that I could just go over there and drop some off. So we're forever indebted to them as well too. Just them opening up, because we didn't know what their services were about. We always thought it was for families from out of town that were financially more needing than us, and so. But anyway, we're forever grateful for them and still support them to this day. But while there in the NICU, we just met the most amazing nurses that you could ever find. I think, to be a NICU nurse, and I don't know, but they have to have extra training, be compassionate. They're the cream of the crop, and if it wasn't for them, even the labor and delivery nurses were great too, but just to take it to that next level, I mean, they were on top of their game. One specific nurse that we really gravitated towards, that we still send Christmas cards to, just because we're forever, grateful for her. Just her compassion, her showing us how to change a diaper, how to feed our child, what are all these machines? What does this mean? Taking her time. And I know that we weren't her only, Elias wasn't her only person, her only child that she needed to take care of. But she knew of our story right away, and she accommodated us as much as possible, to the point where there was another set of twins coming up to the NICU, and she told us before they came up, hey, are you going to be okay with having another set of twins right next to your son? And we said, no, not yet. It's way too soon. Yeah. And so she's like, I'm more than happy to, move him to another bay. But that just meant that we were going to lose her as our nurse. Oh, man. And so we asked her, we're like, hey, is it possible that you could actually, stay with him? And so they made it happen somehow, one way or another. And so I thought that was amazing, just because she basically kept her Bay 6 going, but then moved ours, and she would keep moving, kept checking on us every time she was there. So
you guys are in, your son was in the NICU for, 17 days?
17 days, yeah.
During that time, I know, I guess, quote unquote, a normal NICU stay would be. For you, though, I can't imagine that was the same. What's the process? Or, I mean, I don't even know, or can't even imagine what you guys go through having to deal with that bereavement. I mean, because you're not just taking care of one, that's in the NICU. There were still other things that you guys had to do, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I already had planned an approval to basically be off for a month from work whenever the boys came home. Thinking it was going to, I wanted to take that time off. And so we had to make some adjustments. And so when Andres didn't make it, I took, a few days of bereavement, basically. So basically that week, I took that week off. But I had to go back to work that next week, just because I still wanted to take that month off and bond with Elias. Yeah. And so I was like, I couldn't have my cake and eat it too, as much as I wanted. So it was tough, man. So meanwhile, Elias is in the NICU. We're up at Ronald McDonald on the 8th floor. So I commuted basically to work. And then we lived at the hospital for those 17 days. Mm-hmm. So yeah, showered there, ate there, everything, and we had family come visit us at the Ronald McDonald room or at the NICU as well too. But that was our new home for those 17 days. But to answer your question with regards to just the bereavement part of it, yeah, I mean, we had to make a couple trips to the funeral home and take Monica away from, from Elias, from the NICU, and that was tough. But it's like, we need to share this time, with both sons, and they're apart,
yeah,
physically, spiritually, but we needed to, there were still things that needed to be done. And so went to the funeral home a couple times, made arrangements, and a lot of stuff over email as well too. I tried to, after work, I worked nearby the funeral home, so I was able to kind of go there during lunch or after work and kind of handle some things so that when it was time to come home, quote unquote, to the hospital, that was time that I could spend with Monica and Elias.
Yeah.
And so we had, the funeral for Andres, beautiful funeral. As much as nobody would ever want to bury their child, no matter how old they are or how young they are. It was a beautiful ceremony and lots of family and friends there. Also thinking, man, our son's in a NICU. Our son's in a NICU.
Yeah.
We need to hurry up and go back to the NICU. We don't want to lose him too. So that's where it's like, couldn't really focus on just one or the other. Like, we're always thinking about both.
Having a baby in the NICU and dealing with all this that you're doing, for one, I can't even imagine. But do you think, are you even allowed to mourn?
Yeah, I
mean, you're still going through the NICU.
Yeah, it was like go time for me. I would say at least 6 months that I finally, did I cry? Did I think about our son? Yeah, absolutely every day. But did I put on my pants and be the rock for my wife every day? I did, man, for like I said, about 6 months, where we went to Healing Hearts group, through Ronald McDonald. It's a 6-week, bereavement counseling.
Yeah, the Healing Hearts program from the Ronald McDonald House Charities.
Yeah, so we did that, and we met some amazing, families that had similar stories, and that helped. But ultimately, something hit me just about 6 months in that I finally just broke down. Because I think at that point, Monica was going back to work. And I think that's where she was at home for those 6 months, taking care of Elias, and that was her thing,
Mm-hmm.
But after 6 months, she had to go back to work, and that's where our quote-unquote new normal was, where she was back to work, I was back to work, Elias was now going to grandma's house. Mm-hmm. And so at that point, I was like, wait a minute, what about me? I didn't have the time to grieve properly. And I don't know if there's even a proper way to grieve, but I felt like I needed to keep going. I needed to build things. I needed to do things. I needed to keep busy. I needed to, support Monica. I needed to support our family, So it was go, 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 go. And that's how I am 99% of the time anyway. So I think that's where just natural habit of me just being on the go all the time, being busy, I don't want to say it helped, but that's where I naturally fell into just that go mode until one day I just was rocking my son to sleep, and that's where I finally just let go and just cried it out,
And now, with you guys, so, we see this with families who have twins or multiples or, stuff like that, where you have bereavement and you have a baby in the NICU. for a dad already, a NICU dad, you're still, I call it the NICU dad shuffle. And, you're taking care of baby in the NICU. You're taking care of mom. You're still going to work. You're taking care of other siblings if you have that. For you guys in your situation, were you able to do all that still? Or, I know, I gotta imagine you had that in the back of your mind, like the bereavement part. And, did it take you away from anything else, or did it make you even do it even more? You know what I mean?
I think I had to do the bereavement last, the grieving last. Because, taking care of mom, taking care of Elias, taking care of whatever. Making sure family members, when they're coming to come visit, and I'm telling them no, or telling them okay, but come to this time, or going back to work, So, I didn't put it first, or second or third. I had to finally put it, at the end. I remember even in the NICU, with Elias, holding him, or bringing in family and friends over to spend time with them. It was like focusing on him, focusing on making sure even everyone's washing their hands, everyone's, holding him the right way, watch out for this wire, or, things like that. And so it was like pure focus on the task at hand, and didn't let my mind wander, other than thinking about those other dads. Those other dads are in there too. There's mainly mothers, but every once in a while where I had some quiet time and I could just, hold my son, rocking him or whatever. It's like, man, what's that guy going through? What's his story? And I remember just thinking, should I go up to them and say, hey, we're common denominators. We're in this thing together, man. I don't know what your story is, but my name is, and this is who I am. I'm not going to cure anything, but I just want to at least say, hey, and just kind of give you that nod that, man, we're in this together. I never did it. I think a couple of reasons why. I think one of them was this, man, I wanted to focus on my own son, and I'm sure they wanted to focus on their child too. And I just think that was kind of faux pas, where it's just more so guys don't do that.
Yeah, the machismo of us talking about our feelings or sharing our story. One of the things that NICU dads have, well, just NICU parents in general, deal with are families, family members, friends, and keeping them away, kind of, or people not understanding what life in the NICU is like for a parent, and when you, or even coming home with the baby, and how you have to handle things a certain way. With you guys going through the bereavement, was that even more of an issue? Because I'm sure you had family and friends who were trying to console you and be there for you, but at the same time dealing with the NICU issues.
10 times over. Fast forward, come home with Elias. Everybody wanted to come see him right away, and we're like, no, he's still not just, hey, be careful for the first couple months. Like, he's still a preemie baby. Like, he barely fit in the car seat, he barely passed over 5 pounds whenever we left. And now we were super overprotective with people, and when we did allow people to come over, I don't care if you washed your hands, you're still gonna put some hand sanitizer. It was, we were super overprotective, and for every right. Just, not only because he's our son, but it's like, again, like, hey, we lost one, we're not taking any chances, we're all in on this one, and so that was always tough, just to say no to people, because I know that they come from a loving place. They want to support us. What can we do? What can we bring? We just want to see y'all, see your new son. It's like, we appreciate it, but not right now.
Did you guys have to deal with, and I'm putting this in perspective, of if you were a family member of mine or a friend, where people maybe avoided y'all too, not knowing what to tell you, or or did you have people that would just say the wrong thing to you? And I mean, because during that time, or even after.
I think a lot of people will just say, hey, I'm sorry, and I can't imagine what you're going through, and a lot more were saying, what can we do to help? It's like nothing. I mean, you bring our son back. There's nothing that, as much, and I know coming from a loving place, they want to give you the world, but nothing that anybody can do is going to bring our son back, and that's the only thing we wanted. Hugs are great, cards are great, food is great, delicious. It's not gonna,
it's not gonna fill that hole. So I know NICU stays and everything put a strain on relationships and marriages. Can't imagine how that goes for you guys. How does that work, or what did y'all deal with? What's that like in this situation?
When we were at the NICU, it was pure survival mode. We had it was actually pretty neat that the company that I worked for, the team that I was on, my employees actually pulled together and made some meals for us, and when I went back to work, they gave them to me to take them back to where we were staying in one of the family rooms. And so that was great. One less thing that we needed to worry about, or when my parents came or friends came, they would bring food, and so that was great. But it was just survival mode, man. It was me waking up early, checking on the baby boy, shower, change, go to work, take care of whatever else we need to take care of, and then come back. And whether we're leaving Monica, checking in to see how she's doing, but she would basically be in the NICU the whole day, holding him. And I think honestly, like, that helped immensely, just having that warmth, that love, that familiarity with our son, and vice versa. I think that definitely helped. Maybe it helped reduce his amount of stay, maybe not, I don't know, but I like to think that it, we had that opportunity, and and so there wasn't any strain on our relationship with regards to any of that, just because it was like an understanding, like, she knew I had to go back to work because I needed to save that time, so that when Elias came home, there were no more NICU nurses there to help out. And so there was just that common understanding. So I thank her for that, and just our communication, given our circumstances, it was fine.
What do you recommend or advise other NICU dads in your situation? What would be the biggest pieces of advice that you would recommend to somebody that's going through that right now?
I think a few things. I'll explain each of them separately, but being present, ask questions, and then lastly, open yourself up, or lend a helping hand, or go reach out to those other fathers that you see. Being present, just in our situation, was I there physically? Yes. Were there times where I focused solely on Elias? Yes. But were there other times where I was grieving or thinking about funeral arrangements, thinking about work at times? Yeah, I mean, your mind at times, they wanders, but try to commit yourself to being there present 100% of the time. And then just, asking questions. Us being new, we took whatever the NICU nurses said for gospel, basically, mm-hmm. and again, they're angels, basically. They're cream of the crop. And so, but still, like, why are you doing this? Or what does this wire mean? Or what is this on the reading?
Mm-hmm.
Just inform yourself, and just make sure that it's your child, that they're taking care of. You have every right to, ask questions and do that. And that, I think, helps, buy into that process, and then lastly, just the thing that I did not do that I highly recommend is reach out to others. I remember, whether it's hand to hold or there's somebody else with the vest on, just sitting there, and it's like, I wanted to go up there and go talk to them and see what services they're providing. Like, what are they doing here? How can they help me? If not me, maybe my wife. Can they go talk to my wife for a little bit? Or some of those other dads, just kind of, maybe you bump into each other when you're signing in. I don't know. Just, we're all in this together. All of our children are in this NICU, and let's make the best of it and try to help each other out. Maybe you might become lifelong friends, You never know.
Did you have to deal with any anxiety, PTSD? I mean, those are all things that are common for NICU dads. But even having the NICU stay and then the bereavement on there, did you deal with that while you were in the NICU or even now? I mean, do you see any stuff or any signs of that?
I think, like, while in the NICU, it was making sure that everybody that touched or held Elias was, again, flu season, making sure their hands were clean, and, if you're sick, no, don't come back later type of thing. And so, yeah, that was my anxiety there. With regards to PTSD, yeah, I think, little triggers here and there that even still today, where we'll see Elias' shadow, or we'll see him in the mirror and think, like, that should be his twin, his brother. Yeah. Now he's at the age where he's, almost 3.5, and we've talked about his brother and, his brother this, his brother in heaven, and he'll say it randomly. The other day, I just learned the story this morning from my parents. The neighbor across the street was asking if the kids that my parents were taking care of, were they my brother's kids? And they told him no, that his kids are grown now. These are Erik's kids. One's 3.5, the other one's, now 6 months. And so Elias actually said, and my brother too. And I said, man, that's just, he knows. Yeah. He knows. There's just little triggers. And some are good and some are not good. Some are good where we'll see a red cardinal, or a red robin or whatever, and it's just a little reminder. Or we'll see a little ray of sunshine. Yesterday I was cutting the grass and I look up in the sky and it's like a beautiful day, and rays of sunshine just peeking out. It's like, is that Andres saying hi? I don't know. But then also it's like, we'll go to a park or something and I see a double stroller, whether it's twins or not. I immediately go there with my mind and just like, I should have a double stroller. Yeah. I should be having 2 kids playing. I should. Am I ungrateful? No, absolutely not. I'm absolutely grateful to have Elias. Because I'm sure that on the flip side, I'm sure there are multiple pregnancies of multiples where none of them survive. Yeah. And they're probably saying you should be grateful that you have at least one. Yeah. I totally get it, but I'm like a teeter-totter, going back and forth. It's like, totally grateful, but I'm also on the flip side having a tough time, grieving or just thinking about my son.
And 3 years later, it sounds like it's still the same today as it was the day after.
Yeah, it's still there, and it's never going to go away. There's, somebody once said, that happened X amount of years ago, or X amount of, get over it. Yeah. It's like, no, you don't understand. There's not a get over it. There's no cure. There's no, go to this, counseling session or whatever. It's like, it helps for a little bit, but it's still there. It's never going to go away, Some people call it a new club that you don't want to be a part of. I mean, you are. Yeah. I think same thing with the NICU families too, where it's like, I kind of fast forward and then I'll go back. Like, we just recently had our daughter, a rainbow baby. She's 6 months now.
Yeah, congratulations,
Thank
by
you.
the way.
Thank you. Perfect pregnancy, planned the C-section, got there early, everything went to plan. She didn't go to no NICU stay. Totally different experience, right? But it's like the level, not that the level of care changed, but there was that NICU stay where it's like, man, it was high alert, code orange or whatever you want to call it. Like, that wasn't there with my daughter, and so being part of that NICU club too, you have that, what do you call it? You have those experiences back then to help you now, like with my daughter, making sure that, I keep going to making sure your hands are clean, but just, the level of care.
Yeah,
that
even
we
then,
saw.
yeah, we always say that when we come out of a NICU stay, you're almost have a PhD because you know what everything means, and sometimes we even feel stronger about how we take care of our kids because of everything that we learn from the nurses and the staff and the doctors in the NICU. Whereas a normal pregnancy, they take their baby home after 3 days and don't have a clue.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, just the doctors rounding on the regular, like 9 a.m. or whatever time it was, like it was consistent, man. And it was not only just, it was several of them there versus a quote unquote normal pregnancy. It's like, whenever they show up and kind of, 3 days, 4 days and you're out.
Yeah.
So it's like, whoa.
The numbers on divorce after an event like y'all's are pretty high. Are there things that you guys did that helped or that you recommend on something like that?
Yeah, I think, we both grieve differently at different times, different places, different triggers, different things. I may not say, things that bother me because, again, I want to be that rock. I want to be that, support for my wife. But, yeah, I think you have to talk about it. And if not talking, at least, like, be there. You don't even have to say anything and just hold your wife.
Yeah.
Hold your significant other, just because they know too that you're the only other person that was there, that experienced the same thing versus a friend, a family member. Like, you're their only other person, and so there were times where I remember, holding on to Monica, just hugging her, have her lean on me, and let her cry and until she was done. Like, I didn't ask her, like, are you done now? Like, no, you don't. You let them do their thing,
Yeah.
And the same vice versa. Like, there were times where we would talk about it and then I would break down and she would hug me too. But I definitely recommend you have to talk about things. I think that's the problem with guys these days where, and not even these days, back in the old days, the macho where you don't talk about things, you gotta man up or, walk it off. No, man, you have to talk about things.
Yeah. Did y'all do any support groups or anything like that, or couples counseling, or bereavement counseling?
Yeah, you name it. I mean, we definitely did. Ronald McDonald, after looking them up while in the NICU, it's like, what else do they offer, or how'd they find us, and what are they about? And it's not just older kids, it's NICU and it's bereavement and things like that. So I reached out to, at the time was Worth Gilcrease. He was the counselor that contracted with Ronald McDonald and did the Hope Group Healing Hearts program. And so that was like a 6-week session, one day a week or one night a week for a few hours. And to me, that was something that I really wanted to go.
Yeah.
I wanted to go. I wanted to talk about it. I wanted to learn what are some steps. What can we do? I had that need. My wife didn't want to go because we just came home.
Oh, okay.
She didn't want to leave Elias.
So they started pretty soon.
It was just kind of timing where
Yeah.
it's like they started and it's like, man, I want to jump on this. Let's do it.
Yeah.
It was free. Like, let's just, if we don't like it, I mean, we're not losing out on anything. And so Monica had a hard time. I remember like backing out of our driveway the first time, the second time. She was like, no, turn back around. I don't want to go. I don't want to leave Elias. And it's not about the person taking care of her, because we're taking care of him and we trust her. She's Elias's godmother. Like we trust her with our lives. And anyway, with his life, but it's just being away for that moment. That was tough. But so we did that counseling for 6 weeks. We did some private 2-on-1 counseling with another counselor up in Round Rock. We also further later on down the road even did some couples counseling, just because it does put a strain with just new child, not just a new child, but losing a child. There were days where we didn't, we would argue about stuff, but the underlying thing was just like, man, we missed our son. And it just got enough to the point where we were arguing about random things, that had nothing to do with our son, but it was that underlying issue of missing him.
The pain.
Yeah.
Yeah, both had the pain.
Yeah. So, we went to all three of those. And so, did it help? Yeah. I mean, we talk about things, and we're not perfect by any means. Do we still argue every once in a while? I think any couple does. But you have to work through them. You have to talk about things. Whatever it is, it has to be talked about.
Well, I think that's some great advice, man. And I think your story is extraordinary, and the things you guys have been through. But we both know that there's a lot of other dads going out there through the same thing, and I hope somebody listens to this and take some of your advice, or just hears this and sees that you're not alone, man. And just NICU dads in general, just reiterating some of the stuff that Erik said, is sharing your story and talking to somebody is huge, and will definitely be something that'll help you get through these things that we go through. But Erik, man, thanks for coming in today. Thanks for sharing. You got me. Yeah, I cried if you couldn't hear in here. There was some tears going on in here. But I thank you for everything that you do and for sharing your story with us. But that should do it, man.
Happy to be here. Happy to share.
Thank you for listening, and thank you for your support. Once again, please take a look at thenicudad.com. We continue to grow the list of resources we are bringing NICU dads. To my fellow NICU dads, good luck, and remember, you are not alone.